Okay, so here we are with another. Sorry, I can't talk. Another McFarlane DC Multiverse unboxing, and this is Batman versus Professor Zoom. Not just any Batman, it's Flashpoint Batman, it's Thomas Wayne Batman versus Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash. There's the artwork on the back. Couple of different comic book pictures they got mashed up there. Uh, I think they're both by Andy Kubert, maybe Adam Kubert. It's one of the Kuberts. But which one drew Flashpoint off off the top of my head. But but yeah, let's go ahead and open it up. There's not really a whole lot to talk about as far as the packaging on this goes, because we're all very familiar with the McFarlane DC Multiverse packaging at this point, aren't we? I've talked about it enough, I think. And yeah, we'll go ahead and open it up. Since we saw the artwork on the back, and that's really the only thing that would be, I guess, unique about this packaging. So here we go. And like with most of these 2 packs, it does have a backdrop. And hey, look at that. They don't have stuff stuck on the backdrop this time. So you can actually use this backdrop as a backdrop. That's nice. Because like previously they'd have all these really nice backdrops in here, but they'd have bubbles stuck to them with trading cards and figure stands and whatnot. And I was always very disappointed that all this lovely artwork was ruined, absolutely ruined by having these bubbles sealed on there. Well, now we've got just like a nice cityscape. So we can set that aside for now. We don't want to let that get damaged. Also, something else that's special about this one is look at this. Thomas Wayne actually comes with some guns. Yeah. So, speaking of the trading cards, they're in this little bubble here, and already they're kind of buckled. So, I'm going to go ahead and pull those out. But you can see how they're kind of warped from being in there. So, I guess it's not perfect, but I'd rather have slightly warped trading cards than a backdrop I can't use if that's my only 2 options. So we got our Flashpoint Batman there, and here's what the back looks like. And it reads Batman Flashpoint data file, real name Thomas Wayne. The Thomas Wayne of Flashpoint, the man who became Batman when it was a young Bruce Wayne who was killed in Crime Alley, is perhaps the most complicated version of Thomas to date. Once a brutal slayer of Gotham's villains who augmented his wealth by investing in Gotham's depravity as a casino magnate, Thomas Wayne rededicated himself in the 2011 Flashpoint event to erasing his own corrupted reality and giving his son another chance at life. All right. And then we've got the Reverse Flash again. Same images on the back of the package. I keep calling him Reverse Flash. I'm used to calling him Reverse Flash at this point, but they actually do revert to his old Silver Age name of Professor Zoom on here. Not quite as common as Reverse Flash, but I think Professor Zoom is supposed to be like his formal, actual, technical name, whereas Reverse Flash is just kind of a nickname. Professor Zoom is what he actually calls himself. So Professor Zoom, Flashpoint, data file, real name Eobard Thawne. Born in the 25th century, Eobard Thawne grew up idolizing the Flash and studying the legacy of the Scarlet Speedster. However, as he learned more about the Flash, Eobard discovered how his own life was linked to the heroes. He was destined to become one of Barry Allen's greatest villains, a revelation that has led Eobard to grow unhinged. When he eventually replicated the chemical accident that granted the Flash super speed, Eobard took on a new identity, that of the Reverse Flash, a wicked subversion of everything the Flash stands for. So, in the first appearance of Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, there's this great page where he's just kind of talking to himself, as supervillains tend to do in comic books, and he tells the reader that the Flash was one of his favorite characters in history, not because he admired him, but because he despised him, because he stood for he stood for law and order and goodness, and Eobard stood for the reverse, and he was a criminal in that time period. So let's go ahead and have a look at these accessories. Where'd I put my X-Acto knife? I know I just had that thing. There it is. Okay. Always misplacing my X-Acto knife. So first of all, we've got this contraption, this doohickey, this spear, scepter. I don't know what the hell this thing is. And like I read this comic book, so I should know what it is, but I honestly like couldn't remember what the purpose of it was or anything like that. So I looked it up online, and apparently nobody remembers what the purpose of this particular thing is. But there are some theories, and one of which is that Eobard does not have quite the connection to the Speed Force that our Flashes have, so he had to build this to harness the Speed Force himself, and that's how he was able to travel through time. But I don't know if that's really the case, because I'm pretty sure he was able to travel through time like always, even when he didn't have that thing. But it might have given him more precise control or something. Anyway, I think that's just a theory. We of course have you can see he has the unmasked head in the package, and we do have a masked head for the Reverse Flash. Got a little smirk on his face, and we'll go ahead and take him out of the package. We'll talk about Reverse Flash first, and then we'll talk about Batman. Because we've been talking about Flash villains all this week, and old Leobard here is arguably the Flash's greatest nemesis. If it's not him, it's got to be Captain Cold or Gorilla Grodd. It's one of those three. But I think that these days, Eobard has kind of taken the crown. I think especially after Flashpoint and his presence on the Flash television series, I think most people would probably agree that he is the Flash's premier arch nemesis. Although personally, I still prefer Captain Cold. But that's just me. But but yeah, we can see that he has the same standard buck that we've seen many times on these figures over the past couple of years. First time I can remember seeing them was in the Blue Beetle Booster Gold 2-pack, and famously was used as the body for the Riddler, who is a guy that I always have over here next to my computer set up, so we can always see the Riddler whenever I want to demonstrate. Hey, we've seen this book before. Look, there's the Riddler. So, and I do love that Riddler figure. He's one of my favorites. So, I got a wild, angry expression on his face. This is a guy who just stepped on a Lego at super speed. Funky hair. His hair is all sticky uppy, and I suppose that probably makes sense if he's a guy with electrical power. You see, he's got gray hair, so he's I think a little older at this point in the timeline, since he is a time traveling character. Sometimes he's older, sometimes he's younger. It depends on the story. And he's got the same hood piece that the Barry Allen figure had before. But this one, I noticed they made a mistake on this. Is you see the earpiece, it's facing the wrong way on this side. They put two right earpieces onto this hood instead of a right piece and a left piece. So mine actually has a little bit of an error on it. I'm pretty sure that that's just mine. There might be some other ones that have that, but yeah, that's probably not a common mistake, and it's almost certainly not something they did on purpose. So let's take off his unmasked head and the hood, and we'll put the masked head on there. And there we have him in all of his evil glory in his bright yellow suit. Not many villains wear predominantly yellow costumes, but he makes it work. Honestly, I think he probably should have a green suit for a couple of reasons. One, Green is actually the opposite of red on the color wheel. So that's a little more. I know it's supposed to be like his colors are reversed from the original Flash. Yellow where it's red and red where it's yellow. I get that, but a true Reverse Flash, I think, would have a green outfit, a green and purple outfit. So green where the Flash is red and purple where the Flash is yellow. That would be and there he is in a nice running pose. We can get him into that. That would be a true Reverse Flash, wouldn't it? And besides, green is the color of envy, and this is an envious, petty motherfucker. You know it. I'm gonna drop an F bomb to describe it because that's about the only way that I can. He's literally just petty AF. That's all there is to it. I don't know if there's another supervillain that's as petty as the Reverse Flash, except maybe Black Manta, who was so petty that he actually killed a baby. So I don't know if Reverse Flash has ever considered killing a baby, but I honestly I would not put it past him. Anyway, so let's go ahead and talk about the articulation, which, like I said, we've been over this body several times on several different characters. But you know, for anybody who came in late, Reverse Flash can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate his head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around the shoulders, and he's got those cool Mcfarlane butterfly joints, so they kind of wiggle up and down, side to side, left to right. Get a lot of good dramatic poses out of him. Same with the torso, typical Mcfarlane torso articulation at the waist and at the where the abs meet the waist and where the abs meet the rib cage. He's got bicep swivel, so the bicep rotates all the way around. He's got double jointed elbows. That's about the range of motion you get at the elbows. Oh yeah, and his arms can move up about that far at the sides. He's got the cool Mcfarlane ball joints at the wrists. So of course the wrists rotate all the way around, and you can move those. They got a hinge that can move any which way you want to. Love the Mcfarlane wrists. Some of the best articulated wrists I've ever seen on action figures. Probably the best wrists I've ever seen on action figures. Reverse Flash can kick up about that far, and he can kick back about that far. He can do the splits, no problem. All right. So got a little bit of wiggle here. Doesn't rotate all the way around, but it does wiggle a little bit. Got the double jointed knees. And that's about the range of motion you get at the knees. Does not have a boot cut, even though this seems to be a separate piece of plastic. They could have made it a boot cut, but it doesn't really matter because he's got the cool Mcfarlane ankle articulation. So it rotates all the way around where the ankle meets the shin and where the ankle meets the foot. Foot can point down about that far. Foot can point, Foot can point down about that far. Foot can point up about that far. And of course, he's got toe articulation just to show off. So one thing that bothers me about Mcfarlane's Flash figures, one thing that I think is a missed opportunity, and I figure this is probably just so they can save a little bit of money, but none of the Flashes, I don't think, have treads on the bottom of their feet, which would be really cool. Like I've got Wally over here. You can see he doesn't have treads on the bottom of his feet either. But Wally also uses the same basic buck as this. So you can see the Flash versus the Reverse Flash. There we go. All right. So he's got one closed fist and one gripping hand, which seems like it is actually like some fairly rigid plastic. So gotta force this thing in here. He's got a trigger finger. Captain Cold, who came with a gun, does not have a trigger finger, but Reverse Flash, who does not come with a gun, does have a trigger finger. Go figure. So that's giving me a hard time. Let's see. I might want to use a tool. So I got Road Pig's hammer here. I can kind of wedge that into the finger. The point. There we go. All right. So there he is with his spear, scepter, wand, whatever you want to call this thing. but that's his accessory. So we can go ahead and set that aside. This set does not, that I can see, come with the standard Mcfarlane figure stands, but it does come with this rather large, long figure stand with some rubble and some smashed gravestones, because this is indeed supposed to be a graveyard. And in case that wasn't obvious, one of the accessories that Thomas Wayne comes with is this tombstone that reads, "Here lies Bruce Wayne." Because as we pointed out, Bruce Wayne was the victim of Joe Chill in the Flashpoint universe, which meant that Thomas Wayne became Batman to avenge his son. A much more brutal Batman, because he wasn't an innocent child that witnessed his parents getting murdered and grew up dedicating his life to fighting crime. No, this was a grown man who witnessed his child murdered in front of him and saw his wife go insane with grief, and she actually became the Joker in this reality. And a much more brutal, violent Batman, evidenced by the fact that he comes with guns. Oh, it's a Mcfarlane figure that comes with guns. We're finally getting figures that come with guns at the end of the line. In the last year of the line, they're finally like, okay, Todd, you can give them some guns. So previously, I think the only Mcfarlane DC figure that I've had that had firearms was Jonah Hex, and of course I had both the regular and platinum version of Jonah Hex. And if you want to see me do like a bad Western accent all through a review, watch the standard Jonah Hex. If you want to just see me do it normally, watch the platinum version. But yeah, couple of nasty looking Desert Eagles. Those are some hand cannons right there. Those are some big ass guns. And then he comes with a sword. And when I was remembering this story, for some reason, and maybe it's just because I was thinking about Thomas Wayne in the Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice movie, I was associating this sword with Excalibur, and I was thinking he actually stabbed Reverse Flash with Excalibur, but no, it's not. It's not Excalibur. It's just an Amazonian sword. I guess I just made that up in my head because I thought it sounded cooler. But wouldn't it have been a lot cooler if he'd stabbed him with Excalibur instead of a regular Amazon sword? But it's a nice, long, broad sword. So we'll go ahead and set that aside for now. And then the final accessory that Thomas Wayne comes with, and, you know, he's got to come with it, because what would Batman be without his famous cowl? And it's got stubby little ears, very, very Frank Miller, very Ben Affleck. We'll set that aside for now. And then Batman himself, Thomas Wayne. Go ahead and get this. So back in the 90s, there was a line that Kenner / Hasbro, whatever they were calling themselves at the time, made that was called Night Force Ninjas. Does anybody else remember Batman Night Force Ninjas? It was kind of a goofy line, I thought, honestly. And it came out around like the tail end of Hasbro's turn with DC characters, right before, just like maybe like a year or so before they eventually lost the license to Mattel. And then Mattel brought the DC characters back to greatness, I think. But, you know, Hasbro, when they had the rights to DC, I feel like they kind of squandered them. They did a pretty decent line of Superman figures in Man of Steel, and a pretty decent line of Superman figures with the animated series. But, you know, they did Total Justice. That was all right. And then the JLA line they did, which spun off of Total Justice, I actually thought that one was a little bit better. But yeah, they didn't really use DC to the best extent, I kind of feel like. And Mattel, when they got the rights to DC, they kind of proved that, because they knocked it out of the park with DC. You had Justice League Unlimited, you had DC Universe Classics, you had a lot of really cool stuff. And I'm hoping for more great stuff when Mattel gets the license back. I'm not somebody who's going to be hating on Mattel. As much as I love the McFarlane figures and I'm going to miss them when they're gone, it's kind of like Doctor Who. Like when you're a big Doctor Who fan and you really like the current Doctor Who, you really like, say, David Tennant. You think David Tennant is like the best Doctor Who you've ever seen, or at least in my case, the best one since Tom Baker. You know, Tom Baker's always going to be my favorite. But like, yeah, like eventually he's going to move on. Or she's going to move on at this, because they've had female doctors, and you're gonna miss your Doctor Who. You're gonna miss David Tennant when he's gone. And this new guy, Matt Smith, he seems like he's gonna be all right. You watch a couple of episodes, you start to get into him, but you still miss David Tennant. You still think David Tennant just hung the moon as far as Doctor Who was concerned. But eventually, this Matt Smith guy does grow on you. You start to realize, what, Matt Smith's really great. I love Matt Smith. I hope he sticks around for a long time, but he's not going to last forever, is he? And then they got this new guy coming in, Peter Capaldi, and he's like this grumpy old guy on this. You see him on this show where he curses a lot, so people make a lot of memes of like Doctor Who dropping the F-bomb and stuff like that. And you're like, hey, I love Matt Smith. I thought he was a great Doctor Who. I'm going to miss him. I'm not sure about this Capaldi guy. He seems like he'll be all right. He's a good actor. You give him a couple episodes, he's pretty good. He starts to grow on you, and then you start to really love Peter Capaldi, and then he's not going to last forever. He's going to eventually move on to other things, and the cycle continues. So it's kind of like that with the toys, I figure. And like I say, who knows? Like maybe McFarlane will get the license back at some point, and we'll get to see more McFarlane DC stuff. And I kind of hope that does happen. Maybe Hasbro will get the rights back, and that would be a fun thing to see. I hope they do a better job with it than they did last time. I'll just say that. Spin Master could get another go at it. Who knows? Like just be happy we're going to get more action figures, and hopefully they'll be really cool. So yeah, Flashpoint Batman. Here we go. There he is on the package. You see he's got this head sculpt with the grayish hair, nice rugged face. This is Thomas Wayne as Batman. I wanted to compare somewhere around here. I know that I have. I know I just had him too, because I've got all these Superman action figures over here. We go. All right. So I was kind of thinking maybe they reused some of these parts on Superman, but it doesn't look like that was the case. It was the seams on the legs that were really making me think that maybe they reused these thighs, but they didn't, because these straps are actually sculpted into the thighs, so you can actually see where they're kind of muffin topping a little bit there. They're kind of squeezing on the flesh as straps around the thighs might do. He's got really cool gloves. I really like these gauntlets, the way they're armored. Couple of fins on there, and then it's just kind of pointy at the end. So I like that. He's got 2 trigger fingers, so that's good because he's got 2 guns. So yeah. And then of course, much like Eobard, his head comes off, and this hood was kind of stuck on here. I think they maybe put it on there when the paint was still a little wet. Now that I have it off, you can really see it's got the little bat ears. Sometimes in the comics they'll draw Batman with his cowl down around, like it's made out of fabric. And I think these days, like we're more used to Batman's cowl just being like a molded, latex thing, like Michael Keaton. Everything from Michael Keaton on, at least up until like Pattinson's GIMP mask. Most of the good Batman cowls, most of the Batman cowls that don't look like GIMP masks, have been just kind of like this molded latex kind of thing. And I don't know how well I'm going to be able to get his head on, because like it's really tight, and the plastic does feel a little rigid. compared to how these heads usually are. And I'm trying to press it on, but he's got these pointy ears, and they're really pointy ears, and they're really stabbing into my palm when I try to do that. So there, I think I got it on now. Okay. All right. And he does look really cool with the cowl on. And you can see he's got those red eyes like Flashpoint Batman tends to have. Okay, so I was talking about Night Force ninjas earlier. And like I said, it's a pretty goofy line. Most of the figures in there were pretty goofy. Like they had a shirtless Batman with neon yellow pants. And like even Joel Schumacher would look at that thing and be like, nah, dude, that's a little too much. I figured they were shirtless because they were probably doing an homage to the Neil Adams Ra's al Ghul Duel in the Desert, but the neon yellow pants, that's what really killed it. So they did a Batman figure in that line that had a color scheme very similar to this one, a black and gray uniform, but with instead of the usual yellow on the emblem, they had red on the emblem and the belt. And I kind of wonder if somebody, I guess whichever Kubert it was that designed this particular Batman costume, or whoever, if they'd seen that action figure at some point and thought, hey, that looks pretty sharp. Why don't we try to do that? So yeah, there's Thomas Wayne, and you can see that he does have these holsters on the side, and unlike Captain Cold, it looks like he can actually fit his guns into his holsters. So let's go ahead and put the guns into his hands first. And they actually fit in there pretty easily, especially after the way I had to struggle with Eobard's scepter. I'm glad that I'm able to get those in there fairly easily. So there he is with his guns, very much like the Shadow. Very cool. All right. And we'll go ahead and put those in the holster. Even I think the Mego figure, that one came with empty holsters and wasn't allowed to have guns. But I guess like finally DC probably must have realized how ridiculous that was. Like I can see like not having like a regular Batman figure come with a gun, or Superman or something like that. That kind of makes sense to me. But if it's a character that like why would you even make a Sergeant Rock figure that doesn't have a gun? He's just got a shovel. I mean, like, what's he supposed to do? Just hit Nazis with a shovel? I mean, who wouldn't want to hit Nazis with a shovel? I get that. but he should probably just shoot them with a gun like they usually did in war. Anyway, so there's that. Let's go ahead and put the sword in his hand. And the sword is like a very pliable plastic. I really wish they'd have made that out of a more rigid type of plastic, but whatever. There he is with the sword. And let's go ahead and have him stab Reverse Flash in the back. He's dead. Okay. All right. And he does look really cool holding the sword. You know what's cooler than Batman? Batman with a sword. That's what's cooler than Batman. All right. So that having been out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about his articulation. So Batman can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. He can tilt his head kind of from side to side, rotate the head all the way around. Also, I want to point out he's got these cool spikes on his shoulders that, Thomas is usually drawn as having. But we'll talk more about that in just a second. Let's talk about his arm articulation. So his arms do they do rotate all the way around, but they kind of bump into his cape a little bit because the cape falls over the shoulders, and the arms raise up at the sides about that far. He does have the butterfly joints on there, so those can wobble a bit. Although, like I said, they do bump into the cape. That's to be expected. He's got a bicep swivel. His bicep rotates all the way around. He's got double jointed elbows, which this one seems like that's about as far as it's going to go, because even though he has double jointed elbows, it's going to bump into the gauntlets, which are really cool looking, but they're bulky. So kind of runs into that a little bit. Of course, the wrists rotate all the way around, both where the wrist meets the forearm and where the wrist meets the hand. He's got that cool Mcfarlane ball joint articulation I keep talking about, but this one seems kind of stiff. But you can get these wrists to move pretty much any which way you want to because of those. He's got the cool Mcfarlane torso articulation. that can rotate all the way around, both where the rib cage meets the abs and where the abs meet the belt. Thomas can kick up about that far. He does have that little bit of wobble there, but it doesn't rotate all the way around. It just rotates a little bit. He's got double jointed knees. That is about the range of motion you get at the knee. I kind of wonder if did they ever do a new 52 Batman? Because I think they could have reused some of these parts on a new 52 Batman. Not all the parts. They couldn't use these thighs because of the straps. They couldn't use the upper torso because the emblem is sculpted on. But they could have used some of these parts for a new 52 Batman. I think these knees would have worked really well for a new 52 Batman. And he does have the cool McFarlane ankle articulation. Ankle points down about that far, points up about that far. He's definitely got some treads. Look at that. That's like some practically Dark Knight Returns kind of treads. That's some kick Superman in the face kind of treads. You know, see if we can get that Frank Miller shot. You know the one. You know the one. Oh yeah. All right. Actually, I got a Frank Miller Superman right here. Why am I not using the Frank Miller Superman to do that? Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, Flashpoint Batman is a really cool figure, and I'm really happy they came with guns. That's really cool. It might be kind of an odd note to end our look at these Flash villains on a figure of Batman, but honestly, with McFarlane, you're going to be talking about Batman a lot as far as the McFarlane Batman figures go. And if you want to hear me talk more about McFarlane Batman action figures, don't worry. There's still a lot more that I'm going to talk about because I've got. Let me think. How many Batmans do I have left to open out of all the stuff that I have? I know I have this future state Batman behind me. That's a Luke Fox. I've got the Batman Year 2 figure to open up. So we've got that on the way. I've got the Michael Keaton, the single pack version. I've got Christian Bale, Batman Begins. That's a figure I'm looking forward to opening. I got a lot more Superman. I got a lot more. I got Supergirl. I got Dr. Fate. I got 3 different Dr. Fate figures to open up for you. So like, if you like Golden Age characters, there you go. 3 Dr. Fates. You talk about him making a lot of Batman figures, but McFarlane has made, I think, at least 5 Dr. Fate figures in Multiverse, which is a ridiculous amount of Dr. Fate. And I'm very impressed that he's made that many Dr. Fate figures. So next week, I'll be opening up the Injustice 2, I think it is, version of Dr. Fate, the Page Punchers version, which is different from the previous Injustice Dr. Fate. I thought it was pretty much the same figure, which is why I didn't buy it for the longest time. But when I saw it on sale and I was looking for it, I'm like, no, he's actually different from the previous Dr. Fate. So I definitely should get this guy, especially since it was only $15 at the time. I've got and then I've got the classic Dr. Fate, the Silver Age, the Justice League Dr. Fate, the one that looks like the Superpowers version, and I have the Platinum edition of that. So you know what that means. That video is going to be a twofer. So I'm going to open those up next week. And speaking of twofers, I got Two-Face, I got Supergirl, I got Adam Strange, I got so much DC Multiverse stuff to open up. And just recently at Big Bad Toy Store, what popped up in my pile of loot is a 2-pack of the Shredder from the Mirage Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic, the Return to New York storyline. So it's the Worm clone Shredder, and they did that as a 2-pack. So you've got the Shredder in its full uniform, and then the Shredder kind of stripped to the waist, and you see all the weird texture to his skin because he's a worm clone and it's all gross. I got that King Randor figure I still got to open for Masterverse. At Big Bad Toy Store again, I've got what just showed up in my pile of loot also was Ninjor, and I've got what else? What else did I have from Big Bad Toy Store to open up? I got some cool stuff coming up from them. So right now I'm waiting on that Kingdom Come Superman to show up, and hopefully that should be soon. Anyway, got a ton of cool stuff coming up. If you want to see it all, make sure that you like, subscribe, all that fun new stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about these figures, what you thought about the Flashpoint storyline, what you think about these characters just in general. Uh, Flashpoint was kind of a mixed bag for me, and there was a lot of cool stuff in there, and there was a lot of stuff that I thought was just kind of edgy for the sake of being edgy, and wasn't really that into it. But I think it was just a sort of thing where, like, when they were writing it, they were just kind of like, hey, it's like this is just like an alternate universe anyway. Do whatever we want to, kill off whoever we want to, have whoever we want to turn evil. Like that's fine, whatever. Because it's not going to matter at the end of the day anyway. And then, like, I don't think this was the intention when they started on the miniseries, but it wound up being the catalyst for the New 52. And I'm not a big fan of the New 52, so it's always like, even if it was like one of the greatest comic book stories of all time, and I don't think I'd go that far, I would say that it's got some baggage as far as I'm concerned that keep me from enjoying it as fully as I could have, because it led to Superman with a stupid high collar and a bunch of pointless lines on his costume, which James Gunn thinks is a good idea, but whatever. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.